Hello everybody, how's it going? It's Ark back here again, and well, welcome to something a little bit different. Um, so I've just been chilling recently, playing a few Pokemon games again, because, I always have a bit of fun playing them. Um, and I found a few things which I feel are going to be interesting tests for me. This is what they call the Ultimate Favorite Pokemon Picker. I also have this one, which lets you know your top 100. Might do that in another video, but for now we're going to do this, and then eventually I'm going to stream me trying to remember every single Pokemon name, because that's going to be fun. But regardless, I wanted to do this for a hot minute, because on my channel, I've always said this a few times, I'm a Pokemon nerd. I am a big fan of a lot of creature collecting games, and I feel as well doing something like this could be really cool. So obviously we've got one of every type, we've got the starter, we've got a gimmick form, a legend, and then our overall favorite. It's for generations 1 through 9, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of what we get out of this. So anyway, I start with generation 1. If I remember correctly, and this is just going to be sort of like a story time with Ark as I talk about it, generation 1 I didn't actually play until I got a copy of Leaf Green. Well, I think either Christmas or my birthday one year. I actually started with Generation 3, and I remember I had a really fun time with Leaf Green. I really enjoyed it. And then it got lost in a hotel somewhere, so I lost my copy of Leaf Green, which I am still annoyed by. But realistically, with a lot of these situations and a lot of these Pokemon here, there's not many Pokemon to choose from. So, like, in terms of normal, yeah, we got a decent amount. Surprising no one, if anyone has actually heard me talk about Pokemon before, Eevee. It is easily one of the most, like, my most favorite normal type in general. And also the reason why I put it as the favorite normal type for Gen 1 is because I remember having an Eevee, which I never evolved, and I just turned it into an absolute demon. Fire has a much more limited pool. I'm not going to pick Flareon because I've already picked Eevee, obviously. I gotta go Arcanine. Like, Charizard is Charizard and all, but Arcanine is great. It is probably one of the coolest designs of Generation 1, and it has just this absolute badass presence to it. For the water type, this is where it gets trickier, because there's a whole bunch I love in here. Because you see, here's the thing with me. I love really derpy Pokemon, so like Slowpoke, Slowbro, Seal, and Dugong are awesome Pokemon to me. But there's also quite a few other ones in here who I really like as well, and in this case, I gotta go Lapras. The main reason I choose Lapras for this is because I remember watching the Pokemon anime as a kid, and also / as an adult. I still watch it, but realistically, every now and then I'd only be able to watch a little bit of it because it's a bit tricky to catch stuff like that in New Zealand. But I do remember the episodes with Lapras in it because it was like really cool. In terms of grass types, yeah, I'm gonna go Victory Bell. That's also just purely because of Victory Bell in the anime. James's Victory Bell and the story behind that was probably one of the most, like, emotionally intense things for younger me to watch. Electric, there's less options. I despise Electrode and Voltorb. The amount of times they use self-destruct against me was so freaking annoying. I think Pikachu is overrated as hell. I'm not gonna lie. I do not like this little rat. I'm gonna go Zapdos. I think Zapdos was actually the first of the legendary birds that I ever caught, so it kind of makes sense. In terms of ice types, again, there's not many, so in this case, I'm going Dugong. I love the derpy little dude. I'm pretty sure I had a Dugong on one of my teams at one point. Fighting, there's a few options. In this case, I'm gonna go Primeape. It's just all round decent. I still remember the Gen 1 gym leader Chuck using a Primeape and then me being like, oh, well, that's rude. I have one too. In terms of poison, jeez, they went hard on poison types. Yeah, wow. There's one in here that I'm going to save because it covers another type area. But from this one, I'm gonna go Nidoking. It's just like an all-round good Pokemon. It is awesome in general. I had one in my Let's Go Eevee team when I played that because, you know, they said, oh, you gotta choose between a Pikachu and an Eevee. Of course I'm gonna friggin' choose Eevee. In terms of the grounds, that's going to Cubone. Like, if you heard me say something was going to overlap here and thought, oh, it would be Nidoqueen for ground, no, I love Cubone. I remember playing Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team, and now that I look back at it and realizing what they actually said, if you got a Cubone, it's kind of depressing. But Cubone 100% is my favorite ground type in Gen 1. For the flying types, honestly, I'm going to go Pidgeot. The final evolution of the Pidgey lines with the absolute badass Mohawk, like, was not to love. It is big, angry burp. Psychic types, Mew's great and all, same with Mewtwo, but I'm going my derpy boy Slowbro. It took me forever to figure out how to get a Slowbro originally, and then when I finally got one, I'm just like, hell yeah, it looks so stupid, I love it. The bugs, Butterfree. And if you know that one episode I'm talking about, you will know why choosing Butterfree and certain card arts for Butterfree is an emotional gut punch. Rock types. Rock type is a little bit more tricky, to be honest, because there's some good ones in here, but I'm probably going to go Kabutops. It was definitely one of the coolest fossil Pokemon when I first found out what the fossil Pokemon were. And I'm still kind of glad it evolved into something kind of cool. Ghost, this is where it's easy. Gengar. He's the only ghost in the generation and is probably one of the best Pokemon to exist. Like, such a versatile Pokemon. So useful, so great. And Dragon. You'd be surprised here. It's Dragonair. Dragonite's cool and all, like, it has some charm to it. It is derpy, and I have said I love derpy Pokemon. But Dragonair just has this air of elegance around it, which I really wish they kept for Dragonite. Dark types. There technically isn't. But I'm going to go with Missing No because that is the only quote-unquote dark type that I ever knew of. And I also remember as a teenager reading the creepypastas about Missing No because there was a few. Steel types, you kind of got to go Magneton because, like, you got Magnemite or Magneton. There wasn't really many steel types, which is actually kind of wild when you look at it. Like, water had the most, and then I think, actually, no, grass, poison, and water, I think those three had the most. In terms of fairy, it's still disturbing to me that Mr. Mime is counted as fairy type, but no, we're gonna go Jigglypuff. The reason why I say Jigglypuff is because the anime, mostly. I've never used one in any of my teams. I've always just caught it and then put it in a box. Because, you know, you gotta get that shiny charm somehow. In terms of the starters, I love all of them. I'm not doubling up, so don't worry there. But me being me, I gotta go Venusaur. So, because I got Leaf Green as a kid, my brain was under the impression I had to choose the Pokemon that was on the box. So I chose Bulbasaur and eventually evolved him into Venusaur. I think I called it Bulby, which is probably one of the funniest nicknames I've given something. In terms of gimmick forms, we've got we got all of these. This is where it gets tricky because I like quite a few of these. Oh, this is actually difficult. This is also showing me how much Gen 1 love there is in this. That's like, damn. Let's go. I'm gonna give it to Kingler. Like, the bubble beard is hilarious. The giant claws is literally just big crab with bushy beard. What is not to love? In terms of legendaries, yeah, there's a few options, but Mewtwo wins overall there, to be honest, because it was so badass to learn that there is this genetically modified Pokemon that exists, and you have to then either catch it or fight it after becoming the champion. Like, that's kind of cool. Favorite overall from everything. If it's not a surprise to anyone, it's Eevee. Like, I've already said, that's one of my favorite Pokemon. Of course, it's going to be Eevee over here. Generation 2, they did have a few more normal types. Teddiursa was my favorite. There's going to be kind of a trend you'll spot with a few of the normal types. Teddiursa was adorable. It was cute. It was just like, oh, that's actually, like, very nice design work. And then when it evolves into Ursaring, it turns into something absolutely terrifying. In terms of fire types, I'm gonna give this one to Houndoom, to be honest, because like Houndoom is dope. It is Demon Dog, and it is on that demon time. What is not to love? Water types, because there is a bit of overlap between this and another type, I'm gonna put it in here. Quagsire. I gotta go for my derpy boy. I freaking love just how stupid Quagsire looks, and the anime makes him even better with him just going quack all the time. Grass types, ooh, grass type, I'm gonna put Meganium. The fun fact, in most Pokemon games, I've either picked a water or a grass type starter. The only time I've ever gone and picked a fire type starter is in the Paldea region, and that's because derp. But yeah, Meganium I think is one of my favorite grass types ever, so he 100% deserves to be here. In terms of the electrics, yeah, there's some great electric Pokemon in here, but Lantern. I friggin' loved Lantern as a kid. I had one on my Generation 2 team when I played, I think I had Heart Gold. Yeah, I had Heart Gold. So yeah, 100% Lantern was going to be on here. In terms of the ice types, it's Swinub. I just love him. He is round little boy with pig nose. What is not to love? Oh wow, there wasn't really many fighting types. I'm going to go Heracross. And yeah, yet again, the reason for me choosing Heracross is because of Ash's Heracross in the anime. Yeah, I'm pretty simple with some of my reasoning. Poison types, gotta give it to Crobat. Crobat was such a cool evolution, and finding out that Golbat was no longer useless was kind of great. The ground types, gotta give it to my favorite ground type, Phanpy. I've already spoiled the one down here, because yeah, Phanpy is my favorite ground type. It is adorable, it is well designed, it is cute little elephant thing. Donphan is great. I just kind of wish in Generation 9 the Paradox forms were actually evolutions of Donphan, because it's like, oh yeah, past or future version of it, ooh, technically a separate Pokemon. I mean, it's nice to see Donphan getting some love, but also you could have given it a fucking evolution. In terms of flying types, we did have quite a wide variety in this one. To be honest, I kind of lean towards Mantine. It was still weird for me to figure out Mantine was a water flying type, because I was like, oh yeah, you know, Manta Ray, maybe it's water electric, and then I hit it with an electric move and it died, and I was like, oh, it's water flying. But yeah, no, of all the flying types in here, I really like this. The bird Pokemon of this region weren't the greatest, like Hoot and Noctowl, not bad Pokemon, don't get me wrong. I just don't think they're the best flying type Pokemon in this generation. In terms of Psychic, funny that they include all these buggers in here, but we have got to go with the boy, Espeon. Such a good evolution. Such a pain in the ass to get, not gonna lie, but it was still great to have a brand new evolution in there. Bug types, nice and easy. This is such a simple pick. Fortress. I actually had a Fortress on my Generation 2 team. Now that I realize that my Generation 2 team was just like kinda derpy. And I think I called him Palace? Yes, Palace. Because he was the palace walls protecting my starter Pokemon or some shit like that. In terms of rock types, I'm gonna give this one to Tyranitar. Like, it's a badass Pokemon all around. Like, really great design, really just intimidating, and was like my first introduction to what I consider one of the most badass pseudo-legendaries to exist. Ghost types, there's only one, Mischievous. I'm not a big fan of it, but, you know, when there's only one, you kind of can't do anything about that. Dragon type, Kingdra. 100% loved it. This is the one where it's like, oh, there's only one. I 100% agree with, because Kingdra was awesome. The Horsey line was okay to begin with, like having Horsey and then Seadra, but then going into Kingdra made it even better. And following a totally non-obvious trend, Umbreon. This is why I put Houndoom over in Fire, because I love Umbreon as a Dark type more than I love Houndoom as a Dark type. Pretty quick, pretty simple explanation there. The steel types, I'm gonna go Sizzle. Again, it was great seeing some of those first gen Pokemon getting some love. Wish they'd toned it down in more recent games, not gonna lie. But regardless, still a good Pokemon. The quad weakness to fire sucked, but it was still pretty fun. And in terms of the fairy types, gotta give it to the derpiest of the derps, the Snubble. I'm also seeing a trend with my fairy type choices. But yeah, Snubble, it's just so ugly, it's cute, you know, can't deny that. The best starter one from this? Totodile. I know a lot of people might not agree with me, but Totodile is freaking amazing. I love the little derpy bite boy, and also just the fact that he's always looking like, yeah, let's do this! Makes it even better. In terms of gimmick forms, honestly, in terms of gimmick forms, Mega Scizor is the best out of them. Sure, there's some cool designs in there and, you know, some interesting ideas, but like, it seems more realistic to me. The legends, I've got to go with my boy Raikou. I love Ho-Oh and Lugia, but like, all the legendary dogs, I always try to catch Raikou first. Loved it. Oh, actually, no, it's not even a legendary dog. As quoted, it's a legendary beast, because they are all meant to be feline-like in a way. And he's meant to be a saber-toothed tiger-esque appearance. Favorite overall. It's Phanpy. I loved Lantern 100%, don't get me wrong, and I loved the evolutions, but Phanpy just holds that special place in my heart for Generation 2. For Generation 3, wow, we got really shafted on normal types of Generation 3, huh? I'm probably gonna give this one Swallow. Yeah, no, Swallow, because it was just cool bird Pokemon. In all honesty, if some people were expecting me to choose the cute Pokemon in this section, congratulations, you're kind of starting to typecast me. But the other thing is, Generation 3, I remember having a Swallow for a good chunk of my playthrough. I think it's on my Sapphire and Emerald cartridges somewhere around. But I just remember it being all around decent, and some of those other normal types I never even used. Fire type I'm going Camerupt. Again, pretty cool Pokemon. Kind of cool to see that there was volcanoes on its back. And when playing Emerald, knowing it's part of the enemy's team is kind of crazy. The water types, they added a lot, but there is one here who I love more than anything. It is Spheal. I know Spheal could be put in the ice type section, but I have another thing for the ice type section. Spheal's literally circle, derpy, seal. What is not to love about that? Grass types, again, they had a decent variety here. In this case, it's Breloom. Breloom was actually a really cool Pokemon, and I really enjoyed using it. I think I've even used it in Generation 9? Oh, yeah, no, that's true. Generation 9 I used it as well. Electric, I gotta go Manectric. It is yellow and blue electric doggo. Again, what is not to love? I'm also seeing a trend with my electric type choices. Ice types, yeah, we've got a few in here, but Glalie. I had a Glalie on my team I called Frosty, because I thought it was like the head of an evil snowman. And yeah, there's about as much we need to talk about there. Fighting types, we had a few options. I'm gonna, because I said I wouldn't double up. So there's gonna be no double ups whatsoever. Honestly, I'm putting Blaziken in fighting type because I never chose Blaziken as my starter in Generation 3. Like I said, until some of these later generations, I never chose a fire type. Poison types, I gotta go Swalot. That thing looks ridiculous. Like, it's so goofy, and it's such a drastic shift between Gen 1 and Gen 2. But I still love how stupid it is. Ground type, nice and easy. Flygon. 100% this. I would love to see a Mega Flygon or some form of gimmick form of Flygon. Or even a Convergent evolution would be freaking awesome. But Flygon is another Pokemon which I think deserves more love. The flying types, yeah, this is where we get more options. Oh yeah, Colosseum technically was this generation as well. Um, in this one, I'm kind of gonna go Altaria because it's a cool Pokemon. Don't get me wrong. But also finding it in the flying type gym was actually a challenge, and so I ended up having mad respect for Altaria as a result. In terms of Psychic, my gosh, yeah, there it is, Spoink. I love how it's Derp, Cat, Derp. That is my Psychic type choices. But yeah, no, I love Spoink. I did have a Grumpig on my team for a while. It's crazy how many people don't like Grumpig. Like, I've learned that very quickly from being on the internet. In terms of bug types, kind of gonna go Shedinja. It was absolutely wild figuring out how to get this and then also trying to figure out, you know, how on earth do you beat it? And the fact it was literally, hey, you can only use a super effective move against this thing was wild. In terms of rock types, gotta go with my boy Aggron. Again, absolutely badass design, such a cool look, and all around just, you know, it rocks. Pun intended. Ghost types, we did get a few more, and I quite like Dusclops. Really good, solid design, somewhat usable. I say somewhat because I remember fighting it in the Elite Four, but I didn't use it myself. Dragon types, this one, again, nice and easy. I'm honestly going to give this to Salamence. Or Salamence. Yeah, it's one of those. I really like its design, very simple, very straightforward, and it's funny that little flightless dude gets giant scyther wings in the end. Dark types, this one I'm giving to Absol. It's literally edgy doggo. That's all it is. that's my only reasoning. Steel types, Metagross. Hands down, one of the coolest things in there is Metagross. The fact that this was our pseudo legend. Actually, now I think about it, we got two pseudo. Metagross and Salamence are both pseudos. Huh. That's wild. But you know, I remember getting a Metagross and then fighting Steven Stone's Metagross. That was always a wild time. The fairy types, I'm gonna give this a Gardevoir. Again, it's a usable Pokemon, really good in battle. I've used it a couple playthroughs, not in Gen 3, but in other generations, and still all around really good Pokemon. This one is nice and easy. Do you like Mudkip? Because I love Mudkip, and as such, Mudkip is the starter choice for this section. In terms of the gimmick forms, yeah, not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna go with Mega Glalie. It was cool seeing all the Gen 3 Pokemon that got Mega Evolutions, don't get me wrong, but I just think Mega Glalie was one of the better designed ones, to be honest. In terms of my favorite legendary from this, that's a nice and easy one, Rayquaza. It was a dope Pokemon, like, what is not to love about that? In terms of my favorite Pokemon overall from Generation 3, that's where it gets tricky, because there's a few that I really like. And surprising no one, it's the cute derpy one of Spheal. That's so funny, like I got all these ones just like, yeah, it's totally badass, I love it, it's awesome, and it's like, but this one is the best because it is derp. Okay, let's move on to Generation 4. Gen 4 had a lot more normal types. Oh god, Porygon Z. The thing was an absolute menace. Like, I remember fighting against it and just going insane. Like, that thing is dangerous, but it's also so good to be using it. Fire types, we didn't really have that many. Magmortar looks so weird. I didn't really like Heatran or Rotom that much, if I'm being honest. So for this one, I'm actually going to put Infernape. I never used Infernape in my Generation 4 playthroughs, so that's why I'm putting it in here. And quite often you'll see kind of a trend where I don't use a starter, I'll put it in a certain section. This is one of them. Water types, where is it? Oh, there he is. The derpy boy, Bibaro. You know what's not to love about the derpy beaver boy? Grass types, this one, again, nice and easy. Here's the thing, if you expect me to put Leafy on, you'd be wrong. Shaman. because Shaman is a cute little hedgy boy that turns into a sky dog and is also in one of the craziest movies where Ash is literally flying on the Pokemon version of Satan. So that's wild. Electric, yeah, we had a few more options here. Oh my god, they put in the Pokemon Ranger stuff. But yeah, this one's probably not surprising anyone. Blue and yellow electric types. Luxray. I had a Luxray on my team, and I think I actually looked up the Japanese name for Luxray, so then I could nickname my Luxray but in Japanese. So that was always interesting. Ice types, Mamoswine. I love Swinub, and them giving it an evolution was awesome. Pain in the ass to get, not gonna lie. And it still retains some of the derpiness, but it is cool that we finally got a third stage a little bit later. Fighting types, there was quite a few, but I gotta give it to Gallade. Again, great Pokemon, really fun to use in battle, and just all-round great design. Like, it was clearly showing that there is a split between a Gallade and a God of War, so I really like that. Poison types, I'm gonna go Krogunk. The reason why I chose Krogunk and not Toxicroak is because of the absolute menace that is Brock's Krogunk in the anime. That thing deflected hits from gods, which is absolutely wild. Anyway, ground types, nice and easy, Gliscor. It is such a badass evolution, and no one really paid any attention to Gligar in the first generation, so giving it this was such a good idea. Flying types. We're going to go with the AC-130, otherwise known as Togetic. If you don't get that joke, a pair of YouTubers I watch a lot, Terrorizer and Big Julie Panda, they do Pokemon card openings, and it reignited my love for this Pokemon because they kept calling it an AC-130, getting ready to like drop Togepi nukes on Pokemon. And I don't know why, it just absolutely sent me when I first watched it. Psychic types. Again, I said I wouldn't double up. In this case, I'm going to go one of the late Guardians. I'm going to go Azelf. It was a cool, like, kind of cute, kind of cool design. The other Psychic types weren't really doing anything for me in this generation, and we've also got, you know, Gallade over in the Fighting type, so it doesn't really matter. The Bug types, we actually had quite a few of, but easy pick, Yanmega. Really cool, really fantastic. I'm so glad they gave a few evolutions to Pokemon that needed them, but also why the hell did they have to make some of them so annoying? Rock types, I gotta go with Shieldon. Shieldon was a really cool little Pokemon. I don't really like Rampardos or Bastiodon. I kind of prefer Shieldon and Cranidos, and I mean, if the pattern can, you know, kind of be obvious yet, cute but kind of cool. In terms of ghost types, Dusknoir. Dusknoir is cool, but like having its evolution, and I still remember the mystery dungeon game where Dusknoir actually turned out to be a villain. That was awesome. A dragon type, nice and easy. Garchomp, absolute badass of a Pokemon, and Cynthia's Garchomp is forever seared into my memory from the first time that I played Pokemon Pearl. My god, that thing was a menace. Dark types, I'm giving it to Darkrai. The literal Nightmare Pokemon was such a cool design, like literal edgelord of shadows, but still pretty badass. Steel types, I'm gonna give this to Lucario. Yeah, like the reason why I put Lucario in Steel type is because Gallade exists for the fighting type. But as a Steel fighting type, it was actually kind of cool, and I also remember the Pokemon movie with Lucario in it. And then I'm also realizing the emotional gut punch that comes from this. In terms of fairy types, there's literally only two, and I said I would do no double up, so I'm giving it to Mime Jr. That is the only form of Mr. Mime I will ever accept, is Mime Jr. Because Mr. Mime and Mr. Rhyme are fucking terrifying. The reason why Mr. Rhyme is terrifying is because that what looks like buttons and a smile on its stomach is actually a moving face. Now you can never unsee it. In this generation, I started with Turtwig, and Torterra ended up my favorite in this. It's such a good Pokemon. Gimmick forms, there isn't really many to choose from, but it doesn't matter because Mega Gallade exists and nothing is badass. As for my favorite legendary, honestly, I gotta give it to Origin Form Giratina. It was such a dope design, like going from this centipede dragon thing to this then serpent dragon thing with claw-like wings. Really great, really loved it. In terms of my favorite Pokemon in this generation, this is gonna upend the trend because my favorite Pokemon in this generation was Dusknoir. Like, yeah, this is one of my generations where it completely shifts, which is kind of crazy. Okay, on to Generation 5. So, oh yeah, those count as normal types. Forgot about that. The ones down the bottom there are from the cinema thing that you end up engaging in at some point. But for this one, I gotta go Lillipup. Again, cute dog, very simple, very effective design, embodies the idea of normal. Fire types, where is he? This is probably going to be surprising to some people, but Darumaka. Cute little monkey thing that has fire and literally lives in the desert. What is not to love? Water types. There is quite a few water types I like in here, but Caracosta, such a cool design, like really cool. Is literally like what I would assume an ancestor of Blastoise would be like. So I'm glad that thing exists. Grass types, I'm gonna pick Virizion. I don't know why. As a grass type, Virizion was kind of cool. The whole Swords of Justice idea was actually really dope. It's not my favorite legend, but it's probably one of the better grass types in this generation. In terms of electro types, first of all, the Tynamo line is downright diabolical. Oh yeah, here's this electro type that can't be hit by ground type moves. Good luck dealing with that. Stunfisk can go die in a fire. Zebstrika. The reason why I choose Zebstrika is because I think it is a Pokemon with wasted potential. It was kind of cool seeing a zebra Pokemon, but I just kind of wish in one of the coming generations or in a spin-off game, they actually give Zebstrika some love and give it an evolution or gimmick form, because realistically, it deserves one. Ice types, nice and easy. Cubchoo. Like, yeah, there's other options and they were kind of cool, but like, look, cute little bear. What's not to love? Fighting types, holy sh... We had a few in here, yeah. That's just a person. I just realized in bottom right, that's just a person. I'm gonna go with Scrafty. It was kind of cool realizing that, you know, Scraggy evolved into this, and then it does actually have a hood, which is the yellow thing around its neck. Kind of sucks that we didn't get to see it use the hood that much. I think in the anime they showed it off properly. But also, if you didn't realize it, the hood and pants that Scrafty wears is literally like an empty, scraggy skin. So, have fun with that knowledge. Anyway, poison types. Trubbish. It seems weird to choose Trubbish because everyone hates Garbodor, and I hate Garbodor as well. But Trubbish is an adorable little bag of shit. What is not to love about the adorable little bag of shit? In terms of ground types, nice and easy with this one. And it's got to be one of my bite boys, Sandile. Like, yeah, some of the other ground types are cool and all, but like, Sandile is a literal sand alligator. Wait, no, it's a sand crocodile. Why did I think alligator? Regardless, Sandile, easily the best ground type in there. Flying types, we did get a fair few more options, to be honest. I didn't use most of these. I used Archaeopteryx. Again, prehistoric Pokemon. Really freaking awesome. I wish we got more fossil Pokemon, to be honest, because like... What is it? Generation 7, 8, 9? No, I think Generation 6 didn't have a fossil Pokemon. No, Generation 6 did. Generation 7, 8, and 9, we have had no fossil Pokemon, and I think that is wasted potential because there are so many dinosaur species. And, you know, we realistically should have had some. Anyway, in terms of Psychic types, I remember Uniclus. Really loved it. Pain in the ass to get in the end, but all around a fun Psychic type to use. I actually used to think it was Grass Psychic when I first got it, but no, just pure Psychic. Bug type, the Venipede. I think it's awesome. The whole Scolipede line, loved its design. The actual final design of it, really cool as well, because it's like friggin' Centipede Centaur. What's like, this kind of dope. In terms of rock types, I'm gonna go to Terrakion. Again, the other rock types aren't half bad, and I can't put Archaeopteryx here too, because I said no double ups. Until we get to, like, you know, gimmick form side of things, and there has to be a double up. But yeah, Terrakion was probably one of the cooler rock types of that group. You know, Gigalith is okay, but is not the coolest. I think the whole Swords of Justice idea kind of swayed Terrakion to my favorite rock type of them. In terms of ghost types, Chandelure. It's literally just ghost light. That's all it is. And honestly, Chandelure is such a good Pokemon. I'm pretty sure I had one in my first playthrough of... I think I had Pokemon White? Yeah, I had White. Dragon. Obviously, we have a few more options in here. In terms of this one, Haxorus. Haxorus was such a badass dragon Pokemon, and its shiny only made it, like, that much better than every other dragon in there. In terms of the dark types, we did have a few good ones in here. Oh yeah, I forgot he's dark type. Zoroark. I was going to originally put Zorua, but no, Zoroark is probably the better dark type of those two. The whole, you know, using its abilities to make it look like other Pokemon so you can trick people into using a not very big move was so cool. And it also made you really think on your toes when you're facing certain people. In terms of Steel type, we did have a few more. I'm honestly going to go Chameleon. Genesect is cool, don't get me wrong. Like, Genesect is great, and Excavalier isn't half bad, but Chameleon is just objectively cooler to me. In terms of fairy types, we only have two, and in this case I'm going to go with Whimsicott. It's a fluffy little thing. It's actually pretty useful in a lot of early gyms if you can get it quick enough, which I kind of liked. And actually has some decent power behind it. In terms of the starters, I went with Oshawott, and my favorite is still Samurott. It is probably one of the most well-designed starters I've ever really encountered. So yeah, I kind of gotta go Samurott there. In terms of the gimmick forms, we don't really get many options here. Because it's either Mega Ordino, Gigantamax Garbodor, or all of the things from the movie theater thing in Black and White too. And to be honest, I don't like Ordino. I do not like Mega Ordino. I'm gonna go Gigantamax Garbodor. It's also crazy when you look at it because there's like Magikarp bones and stuff inside of it. In terms of legends, I'm gonna give it to Zekrom. Zekrom was a badass Pokemon, and the whole idea of truth versus ideals, and I'm still waiting to see the original dragon, you know? I wonder if Pokemon just haven't done it because they can't think of what it would look like. I mean, hell, I know I wouldn't do something if I couldn't think of what it looks like. In terms of my favorite overall for this generation, to be perfectly honest, it's probably Caracosta. It's such a simple design, and like, but it's like literally armored ancient turtle, and I love that idea. Generation 6. God, I was thinking like when Generation 6 was, and that made me feel old. So in terms of the normal types, we had a few to choose from, but Pyro. Lions are one of my favorite type of animal to exist, and knowing that there was a fire lion was actually kind of dope. So yeah, Pyroar just easily won out the normal types for me. In terms of the fire types, we did have a few more options. Talonflame wins this because literal Firebird was friggin' dope, and it wasn't a legendary, but it was something that you got so early on that if you actually like stuck with it and gave it the time to evolve and adapt, or just evolve in general, it would turn into such a badass Pokemon. In terms of water types, in this area, I've honestly got to give it to Skrelp. The reason why I'm giving it to Skrelp is because I think it is a great water type design. It looks like it belongs in the water. It looks like quite a few seahorses that exist, and it also has like this air of venom to it. Yeah, like Clawvitza and Clauncher are still cool Pokemon, don't get me wrong, but I just prefer Skrelp. In terms of grass types, I gotta go Go-Goat. It's an underrated grass type, if I'm being honest, and it being the first ever Pokemon that you can ride on top of in mainline game, I'm pretty sure, was kind of cool. The electric types, there is a Pikachu clone, a shit ton of Pikachus, and Mega Evolutions. But I'm giving this to I'm giving it to Helioptile. Like, Heliolisk is cool. I just don't like it because it took me way too long to figure out how to evolve a Heliolisk, Helioptile into a Heliolisk. Like, I'm not even joking. It took me nearly a week. But that was young me, not current me. Ice types, again, not many options. But Aurora, easily one of the coolest things. It is literally a long neck dinosaur that has an aurora on its neck, and it's like the gems down its body are meant to look like a night sky. It's a really cool Pokemon. Fighting types, we did have a few more options. To be perfectly honest, I liked Hawlucha because it just seemed so random. You know, here's this French region with a luchador bird. I was just like, okay, I'll buy it. I was annoyed though that Hawlucha didn't evolve. Hopefully one day. Poison types. Let's go into Dragalge. Yes, I put Skrelp in water type because I completely forgot Dragalge is not a water type. But Dragalge is such a great design for poison type, and I think it is a very slept on Pokemon. It is a Pokemon that I should be using more of. It's a Pokemon that people should be giving more appreciation to, and it's a Pokemon that deserves some new forms. Ground types. I'm giving this to Zygarde. Like, Diggersby is a horrible Pokemon, if I'm being honest. I hate its design so much. I never really liked it in general. But Zygarde is such a cool Pokemon, and then also in future generations, knowing it is made up of multiple different cells was pretty cool. The flying types, yeah, we got a lot of Pavilions in here. In this case, though, I'm going to give it to Noibat. Yeah, Noibat's cool and all, but Noibat and Noibat Shiny just absolutely sell it as the best flying type for me. The psychic types, I've got to give it to Meowstic. And the reason why this Meowstic in particular is because that's actually one that I had on my first team when I played through Pokemon X for the first time ever. Because I was like, ooh, this cat is psychic. That seems kind of neat. Not realizing it only evolved once, and it was eventually made kind of useless by some of the legends. In terms of bug types, again, we don't have that many options. I'm going to give it to, where is it? I'm going to give it to the Pokeball Pavilion, just because, like, that was such a cool idea. You know, that these Pavilions had different wing patterns based on different pieces of information or where they were from. And then having the Pokeball one for an event was actually kind of cool. Rock types. I go Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum was an example of a good second stage evolution for a Tyrannosaurus creature Pokemon. And I think, as well, it's a cool Pokemon with such a simple but so striking design, and it's shiny, being this solid, like, blue, was really cool. In terms of ghost types, I'm going to go Aegislash. because Aegislash was a random Pokemon, because I remember catching a Honedge and just being like, oh yeah, okay, that's the thing. And then eventually it evolved into this thing with a Sword and Shield, and I was like, that's actually kind of dope. Also kind of laughing that Sword and Shield Pokemon didn't get released in the game called Sword and Shield. Anyway, Dragon types, yeah. This is where it's gonna get trickier. I'm giving it to Noivern. Technically not a double up, similar with the Dragogi situation, but Noivern is a cool dragon type. There is some, like, Goodra ain't a bad Pokemon if I'm being honest. Gets a bad rap. Pain in the ass to evolve, but Noivern was pretty awesome. Dark types, I'm giving this to Pangoro. It's literally the boss panda, and what is not to love about that? Steel types, yeah, again, you can see there's a lot less Pokemon. In this case, I'm giving it to Klefki because I'm not putting gimmick forms in my main section. Don't look at missing though. But no, Klefki was actually kind of interesting because it was, I think it was Steel Fairy, and I wasn't sure how on earth to counter that when I first encountered it, which was crazy because yeah, the amount of fairy type Pokemon we got in this generation was crazy. But I got to give this one to Florges. It was honestly not a bad Pokemon, kind of nice designs, and also it being basically like a living fairy of the flower gun was pretty dope. In terms of the starters, I started with Chespin, so I gotta go Chestnut. I still remember my Chestnut, and it was so fun actually winning the battles with him. So yeah, Chestnut, 100%. In terms of gimmick forms, this is where we got all those Mega Evolutions. Like, yeah, look at all of these. This is all from this generation. It is crazy. In this case, the one that I probably liked the most of the Mega Evolutions. This is where it gets tricky because there's so many cool ones in here that I actually kind of like. But no, I kind of, when I first figured out it was a thing, the Mega Mewtwo forms were pretty dope. This one in particular, I kind of liked it because it kind of gave me the whole idea of, oh yeah, Mega Mewtwo's forms are Brains versus Brawn. Pretty cool. In terms of the legendaries, what's I gonna give it to Xerneas? Like, Complete Zygarde is awesome, don't get me wrong. Yveltal is pretty awesome, or if you're a fan of MJTV, Yveltal is pretty awesome, but Xerneas, because it was my first introduction to Generation 6, probably one of my favorite Pokemon of the legendary group. In terms of my favorite overall for this generation, to be honest, I gotta give it to Dragalge. It is such a cool Pokemon, and also having a poison dragon type Pokemon was kind of cool because it is literally a leafy sea dragon, and those things are kind of dope. Okay, Generation 7. This is where I can start speedrunning if I'm being asked. Normal type, easy, Silvally. Pain in the ass to get, don't get me wrong. And I hated that I got it so late after the game. But really cool Pokemon. It's like actually kind of dope to see that there was more man-made Pokemon beyond Mewtwo. Fire type, yeah, not many options here. I didn't like Salazzle. I loved Alolan Marowak though. That thing was such a cool design, and it being Fire Ghost was also kind of cool. Water types, we did get a few more of these. Araquanid is always going to be my favorite water type from this generation. I absolutely love the design. It was literally astronaut spider, and the little water bubbles were really cool as well. Grass type, this one I'm going to give to Sarina. It was a very powerful and very good grass type, and honestly I didn't realize it was as good as it was until way later in the game when I found a trainer who had one and I underestimated it. Let's leave it at that. In terms of electric types, wait, Zeraora counts as Generation 7? Really? Nah, I'm giving it to Vikavolt. Vikavolt was such a great Pokemon. Its shiny is amazing. Its speed is great. I literally kept a Grubbin on my team until it evolved into a Charjabug. And I kept that Charjabug until we got to the final island and it evolved into a Vikavolt. Because I wanted this thing so bad. Ice types, this is nice and easy. Alolan Ninetales, it is a beautiful Pokemon, really nice, and like such a striking difference to the original Ninetales, which I think made it better in my opinion. Finding types we did get a few of. In this case, I'm going to give it to Hakamore, because it was kind of cool, like a fighting dragon type, and you know, it's literally got Haka in its name. Kind of dope. Some parts of it I wish could have been better, but overall not bad. Poison types, I'm giving this one to Naganadel. I only got to play Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon after quite a while, and finding out what Naganadel was freaking dope, because I was like, oh, Poipole looks so cool and so cute. It's like a little, it's basically Stitch energy. And then I found out it evolved, which was awesome. In terms of ground types, I'm giving this to Palossand. Mudsdale is great and all, but I loved Palossand so much. I'm pretty sure I have one on my final team. Flying type. Don't really get that many options. I'm going to give it to Toucannon. Simple design, because it is flying normal. But the fact its beak is also a high yield explosive was kind of cool. The psychic types, Bruxious is disgusting. I hate Oranguru. Oricorio is annoying. I'll give it to Tapu Lele. It was such a cool actual thing to realize Tapu Lele was like an Island Guardian and a legendary, which... Is it a legendary or is it a mythical? I don't know, I have to figure it out at some point. But again, cool design, really nice. Kind of wish there was more Tapus, to be honest. They're kind of dope. In terms of bug types, because I said no overlap, I'm giving this one to Golisopod. The fact Wimpod evolves into something that badass is actually kind of dope. And realistically, it is such a cool Pokemon. Guzma's Golisopod was probably one of the coolest things to exist. The rock types, again, this is nice and easy. Lycanroc. I loved Rockruff, and Lycanroc was probably one of the coolest things. All of its shiny forms being blue really helped sell me on it. Ghost types, I'm giving this to Mimikyu. Mimikyu is probably the only Pikachu clone that I accept, because it is done in a way where it's like, yeah, oh no, the Pikachu, this thing is wanting to be accepted, so it tries to be Pikachu. Like, that's depressing, but also such good lore. Dragon types, yeah, we got a few in here. This is where I'm going to give it to Perfect Form Zygarde. Because yes, Zygarde is a legendary from Generation 6, however we didn't get the perfect form until Generation 7, which, in my honest opinion, should have played more of a role. You know, just saying. In terms of dark types, we didn't get too many, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I've probably got to give this one to Alolan Meowth. I don't like Alolan Rattata and Raticate. I don't like Alolan Muck and Grimer, or even Alolan Persian. Alolan Meowth is cool. It's sophisticated, really nice. Kind of wish they did a bit better with the first round of, you know, regional variants, to be honest. Steel types. I'm gonna give this one to... Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Meltan. Meltan was such like a neat little Pokemon, and it took me so long to figure out this thing becomes Melmetal, and then also trying to get it to turn into Melmetal was a pain in the ass. So I prefer Meltan over Melmetal. In terms of fairy types, I'm probably going to give this to Ribombee, to be honest. It's very human-esque, which in some cases doesn't work, but I think for being like a small little fairy bug thing, it works in its favour. In terms of starter, I chose Decidueye for this region, and I still stick by it. You know, Rowlet, Dartrix, Decidueye, some of the best starters we had in that region. And also, keep the fire types on 4 legs, please and thank you. Anyway, as terms of the gimmick forms, I gotta go Ultra Necrozma. That thing was a fucking nightmare if you are not prepared for it, and oh my gosh is it powerful. In terms of legendaries overall though, I'm I first got Sun when I played this, so for me, it goes to Sigaleo. Probably one of the coolest designs, and also, if Generation 6 gives you any hints, Lion as a Pokemon, of course I'm going to friggin' pick it. My favorite all from overall of this generation, it's probably Naganadel. I'm not gonna lie, it is such a cool Pokemon, and I'm also realizing my choices start cute and then go really edgy. That seems to be a trend with me. And now we get on to Generation 8. Wow, okay, I'm gonna have to scroll down for this. Ursaluna counts as Generation 8. I forgot about that, yeah. And in this case, to be honest, I'm gonna give it to Wooloo, not Double. And the reason why is because I feel Wooloo is just better. So yeah, Wooloo is my normal type pick. For Fire, we do get a few more options in here. It is still kind of crazy that the Hisuian stuff is in here. Hisuian, Arcanine, and Growlithe were great, don't get me wrong. But I'm gonna go with Centiskorch. I had a Centiskorch on one of my first teams, and I do remember eventually getting a Gigantamax Centiskorch as well. That thing was kind of cool. Water types, we did have quite a few options here as well. Where is my derpiest of boys? Yeah, Arctovish. Such a derpy Pokemon. It is so great though. Grass types, again, this is an easy pick for me. Like, yeah, we had some great grass types in this area in terms of, like, Calyrex, the Hisuian forms, and, you know, even the starters, but, I'm gonna give it to Flapple. I loved Applin, and I loved Flapple even more when I first got it, when playing through, Generation 8, and I still think it is one of the coolest things with, you know, a worm and an apple. Fun play on words. I really liked it. Electric types, yeah, we had a few options here. To be honest, I'm going to give this one to Yamper, because there's another Pokemon that deserves another spot in another section. Yamper was probably one of the cutest electric types we'd ever been introduced to, which is impressive. And the fact that it was like one of the first Generation 8 Pokemons that we got introduced to in general was pretty dope as well. Ice types, it's Snom. Hands down, there's no question about it. It has to be Snom. It is adorable, it is goofy, I love it. I will fight anyone who says Snom is a stupid Pokemon. Not literally, but you get my drift. In terms of fighting types, again, we had a few, but in this case, I gotta give it to Sirfetch'd. Farfetch'd finally getting him an evolution and it being a knight with a sword and a shield was kind of dope. Still, hilarious that the actual Sword and Shield Pokemon came out so many years before the game named Sword and Shield. I wonder if they realized that. Poison types, this is where that little crossover I mentioned comes in. Toxtricity. Such a cool Pokemon, such a cool design. Toxel probably wasn't the coolest, if I'm being honest. You know, there were some parts of it which I was just like, ew. But when it evolved into Toxtricity, I was really happy that I actually stuck with it. In terms of ground types, not many options. And if you remember my thing that I said in Generation 5, fuck you, Stunfisk. I'm gonna go Sandaconda for this. Again, simple snake design, kinda cool. The nose was kinda goofy, and, you know, it basically saying that it shoots sand projectiles from its nose just made me think it was sneezing constantly, which I thought was hilarious. Now then, flying types. Yeah, we got a few options in here, but it's kind of Corviknight. Corviknight was such a cool flying type, and when Generation 9 introduced the lore around it, it made me like it even more. It was also kind of cool that it's like, oh hey, it's a bird that is in night, but it is the Black Knight, which was kind of dope. Really appreciated that. Psychic types, if you remember my rant earlier in the video, Mr. Mime and Mr. Rhyme can go fuck themselves. Or Beetle. UFO, Alien, Ladybug, what is not to love? I'm also surprised we got a UFO Pokemon in Generation 8, the one based on the UK, and not Generation 5, the one based on the United States. But the United States did have LGM and BKM, which were little extraterrestrial people, so can't argue that all the time. In terms of bug types, yeah, we had some great options in here, but I did say no overlaps. In this case, because it does technically count, Cleavor. Again, it was kind of cool to see Cypher get some love, and the fact that it basically explained this is what existed before Scizor was a thing. It's kind of cool. In terms of rock types, I'm going to give this one to Carkol. Yeah, Hisuian Arcanine is great, but I also remember using Carkol quite a bit, and then also it having like those abilities like Steam Engine made it even cooler for me. Ghost types, again, we had a few options. For this one, it's tough because there's two that I really like in here. Number one is Hisuian Zorua, and number two is Dragapult. I'm kind of getting into Dragapult, and the reason why is because I find Dragapult so freaking hilarious, because it's literally like, hey, I carry my babies on my head and shoot them as projectiles at anyone who I do not like. It's kind of hilarious. In terms of dragons, yeah, we still have a few options here, 100%. I'm giving it to Appleton. I love Flapple, I love Appleton, great Pokemon. Applin is probably one of my favorite Pokemon, but not my favorite grass or dragon type from this generation. Those two kind of claim that spot. In terms of dark types, I'm honestly going to give this to Urshifu. Urshifu single strike form was kind of cool. And the whole idea behind Urshifu was actually pretty dope. Yeah, like, Obsdune was also kind of cool, don't get me wrong, and same with Impidim's line, but Urshifu just seems kind of more badass to me. In terms of steel types, I'm actually going to give this to Berserker. It was cool, you know, this is what I say as a Galarian, as a form of Meowth done right. Galarian Meowth was kind of cool, and then it turning into this like Viking Berserker thing. Awesome, really well done. It sits in my heart so much better than Alolan Persian does, I'll say that much. In terms of fairy type, honestly, I'm going to give it to Rapidash. Galarian Rapidash is a really cool Pokemon, and I still remember watching the live stream that they had for the Tangled Gleam or whatever it was, and just waiting to see what would happen, and then eventually seeing a Galarian Ponyta. That was so funny, and I feel like that was Pokemon trolling everyone. In terms of starters for this area, I actually started with Inteleon, and I really loved Inteleon. It was kind of cool. Gimmick forms, out of all these guys, the Gigantamaxes were pretty dope. But there is one gimmick form in here, because it also includes the Hisuian and the Galarian forms, that I think was probably one of the best. And in my brutally honest opinion, that is this bad boy here. Galarian Articuno was such a shock to see. All of the Galarian forms of the legendary birds was such a shock. Galarian Zapdos ain't the greatest, don't get me, like, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but I think just, you know, the mystique and sort of elegant nature of Galarian Articuno just made that better for me. In terms of my favorite legend from this, to be perfectly honest, gotta go with Sword Doggo. Gotta go my Zacian. Zamazenta was cool, like, 100%, but dog have sword. I'm also very disappointed that these guys didn't get like a Gigantamax form to fight Gigantamax Eternatus. That was wasted potential, in my honest opinion. My favorite overall from Generation 8, in case it really wasn't obvious, it's Flapple. You know, very simple and very straightforward thinking, in my opinion, but such a nice design. There we go, into the most recent generation, Generation 9. No one can argue this. Lechonk is amazing. It was probably the most perfect Pokemon design to ever exist, and its shiny is just fantastic. In terms of fire types, yeah, we kind of got a few more. I will forever die on the hill that Ceruledge and Armor Rouge are great Pokemon. It's just their shiny is atrocious. But in this case, I'm choosing Ceruledge. It is probably one of the first Pokemon I tried to get because I played Violet first. And I tried to figure out how on earth to get this because I was like, dude, that thing is dope. In terms of water types, ooh, okay, water types is a bit more tricky. I'm gonna give this to Palafin, particularly its hero form, because like it was a pain in the ass to get to begin with, but the fact the hero form's shiny makes it look like Batman sold me on it. In terms of grass types, again, this probably won't be a surprise to anyone. Hydrapple. In case Generation 8 didn't give this trend away, it was going to be Hydrapple regardless. I think it's a great design. It was cool giving it another branch evolution because, you know, we've got you literally eat the apple or you bake it into a pie or now you make it a candy apple. I wonder if they're going to find something else to do with apples in the next generation. But it was still so cool seeing a Pokemon get a new series of evolutions within a generation. That was kind of dope. In terms of the electric types, yeah, there were some interesting ones in there. I didn't mind the Pikachu clones in here. The Pawmi line was not half bad, though I just wish they kind of did more with the design. Because it's literally just like, I'm crouched, now I stand, now I fluffy. That's all there is to it. This is going Raging Bolt. A lot of people don't like it. I didn't mind it. It was kind of interesting to see, you know, that they interpreted this legendary beast into a sauropod. And, you know, it has to do with the thunder and the lightning striking from the heavens or something like that. In terms of ice types, I'm giving it to Titan. It was such a cool Pokemon, and the fact that now Garchomp has an absolute nightmare that will fight against it, kind of cool. Fighting types, this is nice and easy for me. And a lot of you might be going, oh, he'll go great, Great Tusk. No, Annihilate. I think Primeape finally getting some love and becoming a ghost fighting type was one of the coolest things to ever happen. And 100% loved that they did it. Poison types, there wasn't really many to deal with in here. And that's kind of great, because the best one is literally smack dab in the middle. Clodsire. If anyone ever says Clodsire is not a cool Pokemon, they are wrong and they are liars. Clodsire is amazing, it is perfect design, no one can tell me otherwise. In terms of ground types, this is where I put Great Tusk. Because, like, yeah, it's a pretty cool Donphan evolution, and I think it fits as a good ground type more than it did the other types. Flying types, we didn't get really anything crazy here. I don't like Squawkability. I didn't like Flamigo. Bombardier was just annoying, so in this case, I'm giving it to Iron Jugulus. It's not the greatest Pokemon. Like, I still 100% agree with everyone. The ancient forms of Pokemon got way more thought into the design than literally just Pokemon but robot. But in terms of the flying types we had available, Iron Jugulus is probably the better one of them. Psychic types, then this is nice and easy, because it's literally going to be Armor Rouge. There's a reason why he's in Fire and he's in Psychic. I like them both, they're pretty dope. In terms of the bugs, I've got to give this to Slitherwing. Seeing an ancient form of Volcarona, a Pokemon which for the longest time, I'm not going to lie, I thought was a legendary, was actually kind of cool. And Slitherwing is actually really nicely designed. In terms of rock types, I'm going to go with Garganacl because it's funny salt pyramid golem thing. But I also caught a shining one of these and called it Butter. So we now have Butter the Garganacl, which is kind of funny. In terms of the ghost types, there was a few options here, but the reason why I didn't put Annihilate or Cerulean in here is because Grieved exists. It is a cute little ghost dog, and I freaking love it. The little candle on its head is great, and the reason why it's my favorite ghost type from this generation is because of Rhyme's Gym, where the little Grieved is dancing on the speaker. Like, what is not to love about that? Dragon types, this is easy, and such a quick choice for me, because it's Tatsugiri. If I could put all 3 forms of Tatsugiri here, I would put all 3 forms of Tatsugiri, because I freaking love it. It is such a funny design. It's like, oh yeah, this is a dragon. That's a plate of sushi. No, that's literally a dragon. Oh my god. Like, I finally caught one of the shiny forms of Tatsugiri recently, and it was full odds as well, so I freaking am so happy that I have that. In terms of dark types, there was a few good ones, there was a few bad ones, and there's just a few that exist. In this case, I'm giving it to King Gambit. King Gambit was honestly kind of cool, and I do kind of like that it continued that trend of chess naming in the Poniard line, because you got Poniard, Bisharp, and now King Gambit. I always find it funny that they hyped up La Premiere, Gita, and then she just turned out to be a major disappointment. I'm gonna be honest, until the rematches, she was not a good champion. Like, Nemona was a bit more of a challenge, don't get me wrong. I think that was actually meant to be the true champion battle. But I just wish she was better to begin with, because, like, to be honest, I haven't really found certain champions to be challenging. The most challenging one, hands down, it will always be Cynthia. She was badass. No one can deny this. The steel types, obviously we've got a few options. Take some. Like, 100%. That little menace being the reason why Corviknight taxis cannot exist in Paldea is freaking amazing. Like, oh, what was that hammer made of? Scrap metal? No, the corpses of dead Corviknights. What? In terms of fairy types, we did have a few great options, but Darkspawn exists. And Darkspawn is amazing because it is literally sausage bread dog, and what is not to love about the bread dog? I'm pretty sure I had one on my team that had the well-baked ability, which came in handy so many times, to be honest. Starter in this generation, I'm not choosing a fully evolved Pokemon because my boy Fuecoco exists. Seeing the little derpy bugger when they first revealed Paldea was amazing. That face alone sold me on those games. In terms of gimmick forms, we didn't really have that many, to be honest. The Paldean forms were kind of cool, but the fact that we got convergent evolutions as well really sold me on a lot of this. To be honest, my kind of favorite one out of all of them is the Paldean, or the Kitakami Sinistee, because I don't think you can call it Paldean, because it isn't. It's Kitakami. That's where you find it. So yeah, I think that was kind of cool. In terms of legendaries, I gotta give it to Koraidon. Like, hands down, absolute badass dragon. I wish we got it shiny, because its shiny is so freaking cool. And then overall favorite from this generation, there's a lot of good Pokemon in this generation, and I love so many of them. But nothing will ever beat my derpy crocodile boy that is Fuecoco. Now comes the fun part. I'm gonna do favorite of each type, favorite gimmick, starter, legendary, and favorite overall. In terms of my favorite normal types, surprising no one whatsoever, my favorite normal type is Eevee. I absolutely love that Pokemon. It is great, and no matter what anyone says, I will always love it. In terms of my favorite fire types, to be honest, it used to be like Talonflame and Darumaka, but now it is Ceruledge, because there might be recency bias, but it's such a nice design that I think, you know, like, no matter what, I would always kind of gravitate towards it if I was to choose one of them. In terms of water types, I'm gonna go Sphere. Spheal is hands down one of my favorite Pokemon. I love the spherical little derp that it is, and nothing will ever change that. Grass types, again, it may be recency bias, but Flapple, I kind of love that we got a grass dragon, which is literally apple dragon. I think that was great, and its shiny being a green apple was really cool to me. Electro types, I'm choosing Lantern. Yeah, I love Vikavolt, I love Luxray, and I love Yamper, but Lantern will always hold a special place in my heart because holy damn was that thing a beast and carried my team in certain gyms. In terms of ice types, even though I love all these guys, nothing for me will ever top Glalie, because Glalie was one of my first Pokemon that I ever got to level 100 in my original copy of Sapphire. And I still remember having Frosty, and I think even when I replayed Mega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, I still caught another Glalie and kept it around so that I could have Frosty back again. In terms of fighting types, this is nice and easy. Again, might be recency bias, but Annihilate. I want to put this one in here over Primeape because it was actually nice to see Primeape get some love and actually getting a ghost fighting type that wasn't locked behind events. Hi Marshadow, how you fucking doing? Was kind of nice. Poison types, again, some really cool Pokemon in here. Out of all of them, I love Naganadel the most. It is cool, it is awesome. It's got such a nice shiny, which I will switch over to the shiny view here in a second. Just so everyone can see the favorites as their shinies. In terms of the ground type, surprising no one's, it's Phanpy. Phanpy is easily my favorite ground type. I said that so early in the video, and it's easily my favorite Generation 2 Pokemon in general, so of course it's going to be my number one overall here. Flying types, yeah, there's a lot to choose from, but I still really like Archaeopteryx. It was a cool fossil Pokemon, and actually getting a rock flying type that was actually possible to evolve. Looking at you, Aerodactyl, and also Minior, I think it was pretty dope, and actually seeing a fossil Pokemon that had feathers was pretty dope as well. Psychic types, again, nice and easy. Spoink. I love Espeon, I love Reuniclus, I love Orbeetle and Armarouge, but Spoink will forever hold a special place in my heart, just because of Generation 3. In terms of bug types, to be perfectly honest, nothing is really ever going to top the Scolipede line. I think it was probably one of the best bug type evolution lines we ever got, and nothing is going to change my mind on that. The rock types, as it gets a bit trickier, because these are realistically all the rock types I ever used, but I'm going to go with Lycanroc, and there's a reason why. I had a friend who had tried for hundreds of eggs using the Masuna method to get a shiny Rockruff. I got one on my second egg, and I called it Blau, and I evolved it into its Dawn form of Lycanroc, because I thought, you know, it would suit it really well, and it did. The shiny was friggin' awesome. My favorite ghost type overall, it's always going to be Chandelure. It was such a goofy thing as like, hello Ghost Chandelier, but it's still such a really nice design. In terms of dragon types, overall, realistically, again, maybe recency bias, and when you look at it, it doesn't really match any of the other Pokemon in here. It's Tatsugiri. There's just something about it. Like, I don't know why, but it's just so goofy and stupid that I love it so much. The dark types, this is an easy, 100% easy choice for me. It's Darkrai. It is Edgelord McGee, but it is still probably one of the greatest Pokemon to ever exist, and I think the fact that we can finally catch it in Legends Arceus without having to use an event was really cool. I appreciated that after having so many moments where I missed events, because, you know, they didn't really care about New Zealand. In terms of steel types, there's a lot of great choices in here, but it's always going to go Metagross. It was such a cool Pokemon, and finally getting one in my playthrough of Sapphire and Emerald when I had my old Game Boy Advance was always pretty dope. In terms of the fairy type, if I'm being honest, there isn't many great options of fairy types. Like, yeah, these ones are pretty good. But if I'm being 100% honest with myself, it's probably going to be Florges. It is a good Pokemon, and like, realistically, no matter what, it is going to be one of the fairy types that I would probably use more than the others. Gardevoir is also really good, and same with Darkspawn. I think they're the three best out of all the options for fairies, but realistically, Florges is probably pretty up there. In terms of my favorite starter, this is where it gets difficult, because I had the recency bias of Fuecoco, but then I also have good memories with quite a few Pokemon. And to be honest, that makes me remember this, Mudkip. Technically, I didn't keep it as a Mudkip. It became a Swampert in my original playthroughs. But that Swampert, otherwise known as Muddy, was the first ever Pokemon I got to level 100. Which, for me, was a pretty big achievement at the time. Obviously, to some people that's not a big achievement now, but back in Generation 3 on the Game Boy Advance, playing that thing by streetlight when visiting family, that thing was one of my favorite things to ever exist. In terms of the favorite gimmick form, Mega Glalie. I love Glalie, and it getting a Mega Evolution was actually kind of great. Reading the Pokédex entry on the Mega Evolution, it's kind of terrifying though. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. Finally, in terms of legendaries, if I'm being honest here, it's always going to be Solgaleo. Again, might be recency bias. Don't know. It's one of the most recent 3 generations, but it's also bias because I love lions. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah. Then we got the favorite overall section. Oh, I forgot that was a thing. Surprising no one yet again. It's Eevee. Like I said before, I've made an Eevee that is literally on demon time. There we go, made everything shiny. Oh, that's so much better. The main reason why I feel like I didn't end up choosing like Phanpy for like my favorite overall is because it's shiny didn't win me over with much. But when you look at some of these other shinies of my favorite Pokemon, you can see why I like them. Like, they're so striking and visually interesting. Yes, some of them are either puke or piss green. That's a very unfortunate thing that happens, you know. And some of them are underwhelming, but there are so many which were so well designed, and I think, you know, I'm excited for Legends ZA. I know some people aren't, but I am one of the people who is excited for it, and I'm excited to see what they do for Generation 10. But I know this is a bit of a different video. I just wanted to do this because I figured it'd be kind of fun. Regardless of that, catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.